Welcome to the deep dive. We're jumping into a really fascinating but, yeah, pretty heavy stack of source material today. We're charting this, well, agonizing history and the desperate strategies of a world really facing the brink.
Yeah, absolutely. Our mission basically is to give you the shortcut through all this, to understand how these fundamental power structures are collapsing.
Exactly. And this isn't just, a military briefing or something dry.
No, not at all. Think of it more like an autopsy of immortality itself. The sources, they really show that the ancient pillars holding this world, the heralds, the gods, the very ideas of power, they're fundamentally rotten. And that decay, it's forcing this new generation mortal heroes to adapt incredibly fast. They're making these huge, dangerous bets because, well, if they don't, everything just falls apart.
And the adaptation, it comes with this, well, agonizing price tag, as you see across the material. We're seeing the true soul-crushing reality of, living forever. And this terrifying new form a god can take, and just the sheer audacity, really, of the military moves these mortal leaders are making against enemies that seem, honestly, unbeatable.
Right. When you look at it all together, the biggest shock for me is how the deepest wounds weren't from some big sudden blow.
Right.
It was the slow passage of time. Just the sheer weight of millennia grinding down souls and minds. It's corrosive.
Okay, let's start right there then. Let's dig into that flawed foundation with the heralds, these ancient heroes, right?
Yeah.
Tasked with defending humanity and what the sources call the curse of immortality.
Yeah, and we get this devastating clarity straight from the Stormfather himself, the source of the storms.
Right.
He explains that immortality, it just wears on men and women, weathering souls and minds. These figures meant to be eternal protectors. They were slowly driven, insane, afflicted with unnatural ailments unique to their ancient nature.
That's terrifying. And the time frame you mentioned, that's what's so chilling. It wasn't instant.
No, not at all.
The symptoms took, what, 1,000? 2,000 years to really show up. It's generational pain.
Exactly. That slow-motion train wreck is precisely what Gavilar, the calculating, ambitious king who kind of kicked this whole thing off, what he focused on. He knew about this deep flaw. He looked at that 1,000-year timeline, and he didn't see a tragedy. He saw a more reasonable timeline than the mere century a mortal gets.
Wow. So he used their suffering as his personal stopwatch, thinking their madness bought him enough time to find some solution, justifying all his crazy risks and manipulations.
Pretty much. His cunning was, well, kind of boundless. The sources really pull back the curtain on how transactional he was, like his allies, the Sons of Honor, people like Resteres, Amaram.
Yeah.
He just saw them as yet another knife he kept balanced. He'd apparently already outgrown their plans way before he died. They were just tools.
Disposable tools. That paints him as a master puppeteer, definitely. But the sources, they get even more specific, more chilling about the personal stuff within his own family.
Oh.
We learn about right after Evie's death. Dalinar was wrecked, right, blaming himself. And Gavilar's reaction, it wasn't comfort, it was control.
He absolutely weaponized Dalinar's grief. The source says Gavilar told his guard, Tirim, to subtly make sure Dalinar got something to drink.
Implying,
Yeah?
leading him to Evie's secret stash of alcohol.
Exactly. To help Dalinar forget what he did regarding Evie, Gavilar wasn't trying to heal his brother. He was making sure Dalinar stayed controllable, numb, leveraging his deepest pain.
That one detail just says so much about the moral rot that was already there. And that night, of course, ends with the assassination, the moment that shattered everything. What happened right then when the assassin of Parshendi using an honor blade succeeded?
The world itself reacted
No.
violently. The Stormfather, that huge storm entity, it cried out like a peal of thunder, agonized. He didn't just notice the death. He screamed, "A herald! A herald has died! The Oath Pact!" It confirmed it right there. The death of one of these ancient broken heroes was seismic, the final crack in the world's divine foundations.
A devastating look at the collapse of the past. But the divine structure didn't just fail, did it? It got replaced. Which brings us from the heralds right into the fractured present, segment 2, divine beings and the question of morality.
Yeah, and now the central conflict is internal, inside a god. We've got the new vessel of Odium the Shard of, hatred, passion, Taravangian.
Right.
And he's described as a person divided. He's struggling to reconcile his, pure intellect with this overwhelming emotion. He's trying so hard to hold the power, but the power itself is just tearing him in two.
And the curse of being a god, it seems amplified in him. The sources talk about his agony, cursed with infinite capacity to see, infinite capacity to feel, infinite capacity for agony.
Exactly.
Because he sees all the suffering, great and small, across the cosmere, that whole connected universe all at once. He feels every single wound, everywhere.
That infinite empathy turning into infinite pain, that's the key. And it's why Cultivation, another shard, one who plays the long game, apparently raised him up. Because the old odium raise, he was just becoming too destructive. So Cultivation's strategy is, well, it's fascinating. She seems to be guiding this new odium to create systems, incentives, things that encourage the right decisions, to prevent war by building up societies where people choose peace. It's less about raw domination, more about long-term behavioral architecture.
Wait, are you saying this calculated management is good? Isn't replacing brute force with manipulation just, I don't know, a slower, more insidious kind of control?
Well, that's the dilemma, right? That's what the sources put forward. It is a compromise. The new odium accepts this split inside himself. He resolves to let each side, the cold logic and the overwhelming feeling, rule his actions in turn.
Huh.
It's like divine administration aimed at preventing total annihilation, but yeah, it's manipulation on a cosmic scale.
And speaking of manipulation and moral convenience, let's bring in Wit. He gives us this much-needed dose of cynicism, his rejection of the passions, this idea that wanting something badly enough makes the universe provide it.
Oh yeah, he does not hold back. He calls it absolute horseshit.
He really does.
And he cuts right to why he finds it so offensive, morally. He says, nothing is easier to sell someone than the story they want to hear, and that this whole idea is deeply insulting.
Why insulting?
Because it makes suffering the victim's fault. Conveniently.
Right. He totally strips away that comforting spiritual layer. He talks about finding a starved child near a battlefield and asks, did that child or her parents just not want food and safety badly enough?
Yeah, it's a heavy point. It really challenges that framework some people rely on, makes you look past the easy answers and see real, undeserved tragedy. But even Wit, the ultimate cynic, faced with impossible odds, he admits this human moment. He says, when everything feels wrong, all I can do is hope. So he still falls back on that core human instinct, even while tearing down the flawed philosophy around it.
But the clearest sign this new god is dangerous. He's already cheating. Wit reveals he actually lost a confrontation with Odium.
Yeah, that's huge.
Odium outsmarted him, excised the memory of their deal, and let Wit walk away thinking he'd won.
Which is critical. Odium's playing this long game of deception. And Wit points out, this kind of cheating, it was against Raise's nature, the old Odium. But more importantly, a shard, a divine being like that, they can't just break a promise, even an informal one, without facing dire consequences.
So this new Odium is already racking up cosmic debt, setting things up for more instability down the line.
Exactly. Which brings us right to the mortals who have to clean up this mess. Let's shift to segment 3. The new generation's war and evolving bonds. While the gods are messing around, Navani is making these rapid, surprising scientific breakthroughs, overturning ancient ideas about how the world even works.
Right, her work with the sibling, that unique spren, it shows they aren't limited by their expectations from the ancient radiance anymore.
Yeah, the old rules are being rewritten. And what's really interesting is how the breakthroughs seem rooted in, empathy, not just cold calculation.
You mean the Fabrial insight? That's fantastic. These devices, powered by trapped spren.
Right, spren. Specifically flame spren, they'll stay in their prisons longer if you give them names and compliments and maintain a fire for them.
So it's not just trapping them, it's basic respect.
Pretty much. The sibling eventually calls it a workable compromise. It suggests this new era of science. Unlike the old one, it's built on, courtesy and thermodynamics. The ancients often just saw spren as tools.
A symbiotic relationship now. Okay, so while Navani's building scientific compromises, the military leaders are facing this huge, coordinated, fused attack. 3 fronts: Thalina, Azamir, Narak.
And Queen Jasna has the critical insight here, the strategic overview.
What does she figure out?
She realizes the whole thing might be a massive bluff, the big assault on Thalina. With all those crowded ships, probably a feint.
A feint?
Yeah. She thinks the ships might just be full of singers in costumes, all designed to pull coalition forces away from the real target, the Shattered Plains, specifically Narak.
And Narak is the critical point because
that's where the Everstorm is hitting hardest, and where the sources say there's the heaviest concentration of functional fused, around 2,000 of them. active and dangerous.
Okay, so moving forces based on seeing ships at Thelina would be disastrous.
Absolutely catastrophic.
Yeah.
Classic misdirection. Sacrifice a pawn to draw attention from the real threat. Meanwhile, over at Azimir, you've got Adolin proving the power of just pure tactical leadership, even without being a Radiant himself.
Right, he's focused totally on the ground game, teaching the new Emperor Yanagon, who used to be a thief, a commander strategy, using a tower board and shard plate.
Yeah, Adolin's whole point is that any battle can be won with superior tactics, separating enemy forces, that kind of thing. He's making strategy accessible, not some divine gift.
And he pushes back on becoming a Radiant himself, right?
Explicitly says he doesn't like the oaths. He's carving out this path of, like, secular heroism. It's really interesting.
Okay, ground war is intense, but the spy game is just as crucial. Shallan's fighting the Ghostbloods, Marays, and Ayatil, and they're using anti-Stormlight weapons.
Weapons designed specifically to kill Radiants.
Yeah.
But her mission hits this turning point when she and Vale, her alter ego, realize something huge.
What's that?
Marays and Ayatil aren't just agents. They have Spren.
No way, so they're Radiants too.
It looks like it. Possibly bonded to Shadonet's corrupted Spren, and that realization, that's massive leverage for Shallan. She can treat them like peers with their own constraints now, not just shadowy bad guys.
Okay, got it. And finally, Kaladin. His new path, he gets sent on this incredibly important, maybe existential mission to Shinovar.
To recruit the one herald who's still active and, well, dangerous.
Ishar. Yeah, Dalinar himself calls Ishar exceptionally dangerous. So big risk.
Huge risk. And Kaladin the Windrunner, he's going through his own evolution here. He resolves to find another path, moving beyond that compulsion to protect everyone.
Right.
And bracing a more focused outlook. Still hopeful, but more confident, maybe. His final interaction with Selenon, it feels like he's choosing to act, not just being driven by trauma anymore.
That evolution moving from compulsion to choice, that it seems like the core takeaway here, doesn't it? This world is being rebuilt, not on some internal truths or divine promises, but on dangerous compromises, calculated bets, and just the moral strength of this generation that inherited such a broken past.
And if you connect it all the way back, the original Oath Pact, the whole system, it was initiated by Ishar, the Bondsmith Herald.
The architect of the system that failed.
Exactly. And some sources suggest he even took on some of the pain from the other heralds when they abandoned their swords. So he's intimately tied to both the creation and the corruption of the world's oldest bond.
Okay, so Ishar the Bondsmith, who created the original contract, maybe even bore the pain of the broken gods, he's now active outside the Coalition's plans in Shinovar. And he has the Honor Blades. So if the most powerful survivor from the Ancient Order decides to jump back in now, what unexpected new form does this war for the future take?
That's the question, isn't it? And that's what we'll leave you to ponder today.